the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. It's time to talk about the red shirt rundown again, and this time it's Nick Zakelj. Nick Zakelj, one of the most interesting picks for the 49ers in 2022, and he redshirted the entire season. But now, could he be making an impact for the San Francisco 49ers in 2023? I think he's an interesting prospect, and I want to get into who Nick Zakelj is and exactly how he can make an impact and what makes him so dynamic for the 49ers offensive line. The 49ers offensive line is built in a certain way, and then Chris Foerster and this 49ers organization keep getting players that they draft and develop to make an impact on the offensive line. It was just a couple of years ago, they drafted Aaron Banks as a guard prospect behind Laken Tomlinson, and after a year redshirting, a lot like Nick Zakelj did this last season, he stepped into a starting role after transitioning and changing his body and made a big impact. Colt McKivitz is going to be doing that this year. Now, he's been in the league a little bit longer than any of these other players as far as redshirting. Colt McKivitz has been in the league for a while, so he's stepping in, but it's his time to step up and be a starting offensive lineman as a offensive lineman leaves in free agency, just like Laken Tomlinson did. So did Mike McGlinchey. So the 49ers do pretty well at drafting and developing offensive linemen. We've seen it already. Consistent offensive line play is what you're trying to get, and really, you have to trust Chris Foerster in the way that he builds his offensive line. Well, lots of questions last year about Jake Brendel, but he handled himself pretty well. Lots of questions about, Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford, yet they handled themselves really well. So the 49ers comments about Nick Zakelj are no shock. Nick Zakelj, drafted last year, 6'6", 316 pounds, has the size and frame and with a 5'1", 40 athletic ability to be able to play within the 49ers wide zone scheme. You throw in the fact he's got that height and weight, which the 49ers really like, not only on the outside at tackle, but also on the inside at guard, and he made a nice prospect to be able to potentially move inside and play guard. One of the most interesting things about Nick Zakelj, though, is his ability to play all five positions. That versatility is the key for Nick Zakelj. Nick Zakelj can play right tackle. That's what he did in college. He can play left tackle. He did that in college too. And then at the Senior Bowl last year, he proved that he can move inside and play guard. Then the 49ers and Adam Peters said something very interesting during the draft process. Afterwards, they said, hey, Nick Zakelj could be the eventual starting center for the 49ers. And I thought that was very interesting. The intelligence, you could see it every time he's interviewed. It's off the charts. They said Nick Zakelj was close to being a gold helmet player. And we know they only give gold helmet players to players they feel are, the best, that meet all the qualifications you need to have to be one of their top draft picks. So the fact that he was on the brink says a lot about Zakelj. So where is Zakelj in his process? Well, I watched him all during training camp last year, and you could see it from the beginning. There were definitely some struggles. He was getting used to playing on the interior offensive line, transition from going from tackle to interior. It's not as hard of a transition as going out from guard to tackle, but it is a transition. You throw in the fact he also was going to eventually learn how to play center, and made for a very much a learning experience for Nick Zakelj. But he moved inside, and you could see he was sometimes slow off the get off, and he struggled a little bit with some of the 49ers' better interior defensive linemen. But as training camp continued to go and progress, you see Nick Zakelj get a lot better. He played better. And when he got into the preseason, he got better as each game went. It went from struggling mightily in the first preseason game to, by the end, doing pretty good. You could see him move up the depth chart. You could see him starting to make plays. And then as the season progressed, we started hearing that Nick Zakelj was working on taking snaps, so that he had developed far enough that they believed he could take those center snaps. Harder to play center in the NFL than it is to play guard. So Zakelj is definitely transitioning to the interior guard spot. The 49ers felt so highly about Nick Zakelj that they kept him on the 53-man roster last year. They were afraid he was going to get poached by another team. They did not want to run the risk of potentially losing him. You throw in the fact that he is roommates with the quarterback, Brock Purdy, and that makes for an interesting dynamic. Usually you do want your center and quarterback to have a good dynamic. Now, John Lynch was asked about Nick Zakelj during this draft process, and as he was talking about him, he said that Zakelj had been staying around the facility and working out, and they had gotten a lot bigger. He had transformed his body and potentially got faster. So could he be in line to do the things that Aaron Banks did? Transition your body and then come out and compete. I think that's what they ultimately would like. Zakelj's versatility, though, make him a player that you definitely want on the roster. What makes it a little bit more difficult, though, is the fact that you have other versatile players on your offensive line as well. The 49ers went out and got John Feliciano. John Feliciano has proven to be a very adequate starter in this league at multiple positions. He can play guard, he can play center. So what did that do for Nick Zakelj? Did that force him out? Did that just push him a little bit? I think what it did was just help the 49ers get more versatility. They have to make decisions about Jalen Moore. They have to be prepared in case something happens with Colt McKivitz. That's why Nick Zakelj is so interesting. Before him, only Daniel Brunskill was a guy that could play all 5 positions. And we just talked about a very versatile offensive lineman in John Feliciano, only able to play 3. So imagine having an offensive lineman, at least while he's developing, and playing all 5 spots. It means you can keep less offensive linemen. It means you can keep one particular offensive lineman because you're high on him. It gives the 49ers a lot of versatility, and that's what it's about at multiple positions. We've seen Kyle Shanahan talk about that amongst wide receivers or running backs. We've seen Steve Wilks talk about that about defensive backs, or Chris Cesarek talk about that about defensive linemen with guys like Kerry Hyde are able to move inside and out. Versatility in the NFL is now the name of the game. You got to have guys that can do a lot of different things. And nobody potentially can be as versatile as Nick Zakelj for the San Francisco 49ers. So having him on the roster is paramount. Does he need to get better? Yes. So what are the things that Nick Zakelj is very good at? Well, first off, he's very good at being aggressive. He likes to hit you and he likes to put you in the ground. He has some meanness behind him. He's highly intelligent. He's going to be able to pick up the things very quickly. No plays or protections are going to escape him. He's going to understand what his role is and what his job is. But what are the weaknesses that he has? Well, he struggles sometimes on reach blocks and second level blocks in the zone game, even though he's highly athletic. He doesn't always finish blocks. So either finishes tremendously aggressive or he struggles to finish. So there were things that he needed to work on. He needed to get his pad level lower. All things that you expect from a redshirt player in year 1. The question is, how far has he developed? I think that's going to be the most interesting thing. Where are we going to see Nick Zakelj's development? Has he developed enough to push for one of these starting jobs? You wouldn't think so. The 49ers are definitely locked into most of their starters. Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz at the tackles, Spencer Burford and Aaron Banks at the guards, and Jake Brendel, who they just brought back in free agency. But the 49ers are a meritocracy. And Chris Forrester likes to put the best possible offensive line in there. We've seen him go with the rotation between Spencer Burford and Daniel Brunskill once Burford proved that he was starting caliber. Daniel Brunskill was supposed to be the starting guard in 2022. Due to injury, Spencer Burford took advantage of his opportunity and stepped right in and got big-time snaps. It turned into a rotation and both players played. So could Nick Zakelj come in, push Jake Brendel, and potentially get some snaps at center? Sure, why not? Could he come in and push at right guard and potentially they move Spencer Burford out? Sure, why not? It's all about getting the best possible players out there with the most chemistry. Right now, the 49ers have 4 offensive linemen that have great chemistry, with Colt McKivitz used to playing with this group, just not starting with this group. So you don't really want to upset the apple cart, but the best time to do it is during training camp. Nick Zakelj is going to get a lot of work during OTAs, and he's going to continue to work on his body and refine his skills. A second year of moving inside should be a lot for Nick Zakelj. It should be enough to make him an impact player on this team. And why do I say impact? Because he can come in the drop of a hat and play a position. The 49ers were very lucky. They didn't have very many injuries along the offensive line last year. But to say that that's going to happen again, it would be hard to say. You just don't know. So Zakelj's versatility is going to be paramount. And if he's worked and fixed the things that he needed to work on, he's gotten a little stronger. If he's better at making sure he finishes blocks, if he plays with that aggressive style, then he's going to be very good. Part of the problem with playing center at any position, at any level, is getting used to playing with your hand between your legs. After you snap the football, you have one hand and then the other hand's coming up. So playing in that direction makes it a little bit harder, and that's why it's a tough position to play. You also have to help with a lot of the protections and blocking scheme. And so those are things he was going to have to develop into. But I think he can. I think Nick Zakelj can be an impact player for the 49ers. Does that mean he starts in 2023? No. But I do believe if his number is called upon, he can go in there and step in. I think he's going to make a huge jump forward. And why do I think that? A couple of reasons. Number one, he's got Chris Forrester to coach him. And we've seen the development of players that Chris Forrester's worked with. Number two, he had no pressure in year one to start. All he had to do was work on his craft and work on his body. Number three, John Lynch says he's gotten a lot stronger and his body has been developing. That means he's taking in the initiative to get better physically. He was already a strong guy. He already bench pressed 225, 29 reps. So, I mean, if he's getting stronger and bigger, I mean, he's 6'6", 316. What's he going to be now? 6'6", 325, but still able to move the way he is with that strength. That will help him finish. He does have really good hand placement and good technique, able to reestablish his hands when being blocked. Those are all huge steps forward as far as being an offensive lineman in the league. Hand placement and using your hands are very, very important, and he's good at it. So I think Nick Zakelj can be a big-time player for the 49ers. Will it be in 2023? I don't know. Will it be in 2024? I think that's where we're getting more likely. But I think he can have an impact in 2023 in case of injury. I think he can push the starters to get on the field. I think we'll be impressed with him in training camp and preseason. And then I think in 2024, he's going to have a shot to get in there and take over one of those positions. Will it be center like Adam Peters mentioned in the 2022 draft process? Or will it be guard or tackle? Don't know. But what we do know is he's going to add that versatility we need to go along with John Feliciano. And the 49ers, with those two alone, have guys that can play not only in the interior offensive line, but tackle as well. And that gives the 49ers a lot of freedom with their roster and a lot of freedom within their offensive line to make a lot of moves and transition however they feel they need to win football games. Nick Zakelj is going to be an impact player for the 49ers in 2023 and beyond, and it's going to be fun to watch. I'm super excited about Zakelj. He's one of the most talked about players that people comment me about is Zakelj. I was high on Zakelj last year. I'm still high on Zakelj, and I think he's going to end up being a big-time player for the 49ers in the future. It could take him a little while. It took Colton McKivitz 3 or 4 years to get on the field. I think Zakelj, it takes 2. But after that, I think we're going to hear a lot of rave reviews about him. I think he's going to be a fun player to watch. So I'm really excited about Nick Zakelj. Thank you guys so much for watching this video about Nick Zakelj and his versatility and how it's key for him within the 49ers offense and why it's key for the 49ers offense to have players with versatility. Zakelj and John Feliciano are who the 49ers have, one drafted and one signed to fill Daniel Brunskill's role along this 49ers offense. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Hopefully the 49ers offensive line plays with the ability that they're capable of. If they do, they're going to win a lot of football games. Thanks for watching the video. Like if you haven't already. I really appreciate that. It goes out, kicks it out to the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There's going to be plenty more content coming your way as we go through the Red Shirt Rundown. We also go into some more of the undrafted free agents coming up soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. But until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.